Dev, good afternoon.
Hey Mike, good to see you.
It's good to see you again, Dev. For those who don't know, Dev Amratia is a chartered engineer, but he's also co-founder and CEO of nPlan, a machine learning company. And his software learns how completed construction projects have performed so that it can forecast the outcomes of future projects. nPlan delivers a new paradigm in the management of risk and uncertainty in construction projects. And his experience was originally in delivering those construction projects for the energy industry, spanning the continents. And then he worked with the UK government to launch and deliver the National Review for Artificial Intelligence, which was published as part of the UK government's industrial strategy in 2017. So Dev really knows and understands the AI industry. And that's why I wanted to speak with you, Dev, today about what AI can do for project managers. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure. Now, let's get started. nPlan is a sophisticated project management software tool, and you and your team, as I understand it, built it using AI from the outset. It's not an existing tool that you bolted AI onto. So what was the first problem that you set out to solve, and why did you choose to start there?
So we set out to solve the problem that most project teams don't have enough experience to be able to truly foresee what might happen to their project. This becomes especially true as the projects become larger and more complex, as you typically see in public infrastructure today. We're just building such complicated things that no single person, no single team of people have got enough experience that could say, I know, or we know through our collective experience, what might happen in the future.
Yeah.
As a result, unforeseen or unexpected events occur on these projects.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of that, these projects are not delivered to time and therefore not to budget.
Yeah. So you focused on schedule, I believe. What drove you to start with schedule?
Yeah. So when we started exploring the space, so the problem space is is based on experience of the team or limited experience of the team. What we had to do was is there an artifact that exists that captures the essence of what experience is? And that's what a schedule does.
Yeah.
It contains what you plan to do. And then every month, as you update progress on a project, it's what you actually did.
Yeah.
And the difference between what you plan to do and what you actually do is the essence of learning and is the essence of experience. This is literally how every single person in the world has learned what they know about the world today is assume something, and then you find out through reality whether you were correct or not. And in the construction industry or in the management of projects, schedules are these beautiful artifacts that we collect, we generate, and then rigorously and meticulously check progress against a plan.
Yeah.
And we do that for life cycles of projects. And the good news about this industry is that we store this data in massive volumes, partially down to litigation risk. So if we feel the likelihood of litigation, we store the data for a long period of time. And all of our clients keep their schedule data in a common place where our algorithms will go and learn from.
So that makes the construction sector different from other sectors where there isn't that reliable data set. In my background in business-oriented projects, there tends to be a little bit of rewriting of history. You get close to deadline time and we know we're not on schedule, and then there's quite often a kind of political pressure to re-baseline and to lose some of the background. Taking off your nPlan hat for a moment, I'm curious to how you see, as someone who understands the AI capabilities, does that mean that other areas where there isn't that strong data set will never see reliable forecasting, or is there going to be a future in which other areas of where we do projects can still benefit from this?
Yeah, so I think there will be a world where we do see what's known as generalization occurring.
Hmm.
The generalization is when algorithms are able to see one thing and infer that to a different context.
Yeah,
Um, this is very powerful when you try and create extrapolations
yeah,
from one sector to another, or from what we believe is an uncorrelated sector to a different sector.
mm,
So generalization allows places that don't have a lot of data to benefit from the places that do have a lot of data.
yeah,
The sort of catch to this, and we did this as an April Fool's joke at nPlan a couple of years ago, was the April Fool's joke said, "Hey everyone, we've just won a £50,000 grant from the government to use nPlan on nPlan, or nPlan software development." And everyone was like, "What? Really? We didn't know that was possible." Not possible. That's why it's an April Fool's joke.
yeah,
And the reason it's not possible is because of the enemy. And the enemy in this world, in the world
yeah,
we're living in, is called agile project delivery.
yeah,
As soon as you're in an agile development cycle, there is no original plan, and you're
yeah,
not measuring against it.
yeah,
Um, and so that's where generalization can't occur.
yeah,
However, where I'm very frequently wrong, and most pundits are wrong, is in predicting how capable AI will be in
yeah,
the next few years.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Then no one knows. If they claim they know, they're bullshitting.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's Clarke's law, isn't it? One of Arthur C. Clarke's laws was that when venerable, experienced, knowledgeable scientists say something is possible, they are usually right, but when they say it's impossible, they're usually wrong, because we get kind of locked into a paradigm of this is the way we understand the world, and maybe there are new understandings to have. But back to nPlan, it has a big feature set of capabilities, which I'm sure you'll tell listeners how to find out about towards the end. But aside from this taking data and predicting from it, what other capabilities have you harnessed, and what do you hope to harness in the future? Not looking for any commercial secrets, but what's the kind of direction? What do you see as the kind of full feature set that you'd like to see in the next iteration?
yeah. So briefly cover the existing one, which is we have the ability to take any schedule for any project,
Mm-hmm.
put it in our forecaster, and figure out what the likely outcome is of said project,
Yeah,
where the risks are in specific terms, and then give people the tools to help navigate and capture risk or opportunity on the project, saying what might be causing it and recommendations for how to improve things.
yeah.
That we do that for projects, and we do it for portfolios. So we can do it for hundreds of projects simultaneously.
Wow.
If an organization has that capacity. Then comes the, call it, newer things that we do. So the first one, which we've released and is getting really strong positive review, is a tool called Auto Report.
Mm.
What the tool does, it's sort of in the name, it automatically does reporting
Yeah.
on projects. What that means is it takes all the project data that is available on the project. Now it's not just the schedule, but it'll see the contract, the scope document, the environmental reports, the minutes of meeting, the schedule, the cost estimate, the resource plans, all of these artifacts that exist on a project.
Yeah.
Bring them all together. You show it your last month's report.
Mm.
It will generate you your next month's report using a triangulation process that looks at all of the data available on the project and says, based on everything you're doing, here's how I would report this project.
Yeah.
And it's designed to cut out the administrative load of reporting.
Yeah.
I do not believe reporting to be a value generating function
Yeah.
in its current guise, right? Because there are too many people spending too much time sitting behind their computer screens, looking at Excel sheets, and then creating slides so that they go up the chain.
Yeah.
And so that's changed already, and we can generate reports for project teams in seconds compared to weeks. Um, I'll let you in on the backstory of why we even built this product.
Right.
When you forecast a project and you start telling the project team about here are your risks, what we unfortunately started running into is busy project teams
Hmm.
where they just don't have the time or capacity to do any more work.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if you want to go mitigate a risk or capture an opportunity that you didn't already have in your foresight,
Yeah.
more work.
Yeah.
You might have to call a supplier. You might have to re-engineer something. You might have
Yeah.
to do something. And while it might sound obvious to many that, of course, that's worthwhile work to do, the fact is, if you're completely stretched and overloaded with administrative burden, you just
Hmm.
don't know how to do this.
Yeah. Of course.
We're all human beings at the end of the day, and
Yeah.
human beings build projects, not
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
So what Auto Report was designed to do was give people the time and space to take action on the things that we're telling them about risks and opportunities on the project.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a self-fulfilling reason why we started it.
Yeah.
But what it's led to is a whole new category of people that, you know, aren't really in the planning and risk space, but do still handle large volumes of project data all the
Mm.
time, that have to report on this data and do this as part of their living, using Auto Report to supercharge
Yeah.
their what they do every day.
Mm.
And that's been really cool to see.
Yeah.
Something I didn't anticipate.
So one of the things I've always thought, I can see that the the preparation of the report isn't a value adding activity. It's really just taking data and making charts and writing stuff. But what is a value adding activity, I think, is when project managers examine the raw data and actually make the effort to get away from their I know what's going on in my project and look at the raw data and try to avoid that confirming evidence trap of I know everything's all right, so I'm only going to look at the data that tells me everything's all right. I'll look at everything and see if I can spot something that actually is a bit deviant. So to me, it seems that this AI reporting is only going to have value if it actually is able to pull out those exceptions and say, you do have to do this, and this is an urgent issue. Is it producing that kind of detailed operational report as well as the, I suppose, the governance tier executive report?
100% yes. The system knows how to do maths.
Mm-hmm.
It knows how to look for patterns. The system knows how to look for exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
The system knows how to do all the things that we, as clever interpreters, know how to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some limitations to it.
Yeah.
I can't overstress this stuff. We've the system knows how to take large volumes of information, interpret the information, and produce a report.
Yeah.
What we advise the teams using these tools to do is to not trust it fully.
Mm-hmm.
So just because Auto Report says that we're seeing an increase in cost slippage, therefore making a conclusion that we are likely to blow out our current budget as a simple, evaluation that it has come to, we would still advise the project team to go check.
Yeah. Trust and verify.
Trust and verify, right?
Yeah.
The verification process also creates ownership, but at the end of the day, I keep saying this, that AI is not building the project. It's the team that will build this project.
Yeah.
Or it's the team that has to make the decisions. And all these tools are doing is cutting out the workload that was either wasteful, time consuming, or you are just not very good at.
Yeah.
The analysis is one of those things. We human beings are just not very good at it. Even if you're a world-class analyst, machines are just better at analyzing things because they are so tenacious in their task.
Yeah, they don't think it's dull. They just do what they're told. Yeah, you said that the system's got limitations. Of course it does. Every system, every tool has limitations. It's built for a purpose and it does that well. And the things it's not built for, it doesn't do. Can you give us an inkling into some of the limitations that you'd like you'd like to focus your team on working around?
So one of them is poor quality scheduling.
Right.
So if the schedule is complete junk, let me illustrate the world's worst schedule.
Yeah.
You're building $1 billion data center, and your schedule says we're going to spend 7 months engineering, we're going to spend 2 months in procurement, we're going to spend 1 year in construction, and we're going to spend 1 month in commissioning.
Yeah.
Tell me what the risks of this project are.
Yeah.
No. That is not a schedule representative of the true scope you're executing.
Yeah.
That is a cartoon at best.
Yeah.
So when that happens, our algorithms are simply servient to the input that they have been provided.
Yeah.
Right. The response can be further detail is required in order to generate a valid forecast. But remember, that's still a limitation of the system. The system can't guess past what it's exposed to.
So it believes what it's told at the outset.
Correct. Yeah. It will just say that. I think it's not going to know that there might be something else going on in the background, right? If it doesn't, which human beings are actually very good at doing and know. But we had another example recently where a client, we were flagging a risk in an electrical scope, and the client looked at that risk and said, oh, "We already knew that. We've been working on this risk for the last 6 months." But the algorithm didn't know that. It didn't know that you knew. You never told the algorithm that you knew in advance. And so what started off as criticism ended up being a realization that if you don't feed these systems with adequate information, they do not generate contextually relevant responses. So that's a limitation of the system. The way we're trying to overcome that limitation today is the ability to feed additional contextual information in a very light and easy way, which is what I meant by in the auto reporting system where you upload your contracts, your scope documents,
all this just read all of that and recognize the disparities between this piece of data is not consistent with that piece of data there.
Right. It's the analogy might be if you hired a consultant onto your project, and this consultant was, say, a risk consultant to advise you on risks of your project, and you put them in the corner room and lock the door and only gave them a schedule to look at, but gave them no other information about where the project is being built, who's building it, what contract they're building it under, what scope, what design, none of that. It's pretty hard for that consultant to do that job in that room. If you give them more information, they will do a better and better job, right? So algorithms work in similar ways today.
So do you foresee that one day we'll be able to take architects' drawings, their set of specifications, perhaps the groundwork studies, and studies of the utilities in the area, and feed it all that data, and an AI tool will be able to take that data, synthesize it from years of construction experience, and say, well, here's your bill of quantities that your quantity surveyor would normally have produced, and here's your schedule based on those materials, this ground plan. Is that a realistic expectation at some point in our future?
It is. I'll give you some evidence as why it's a very real expectation. One of the newest things we have just launched, in fact, it's only a month old.
Wow.
So it's still broken for most of the time, I'll admit, is the ability to generate a schedule from a scope document.
Wow.
So we did this live in what we called AI Day. And at AI Day, we did this live in the audience. So it was lots of nervous people from nPlan hoping that the system would not break when live in front of lots of clients. What we did was we went onto a government website, found an RFP for, I can't remember what the project was. It was a hydrogen project, RFP. Copied and pasted from the government website the RFP document, and pasted it into the nPlan generator and said, generate a schedule for this RFP.
Fantastic.
And in under a minute, we had an 100 activity schedule that was logical with durations, and it was optimized based on thousands of other projects that it has learned from. So other than the party trick that it was fast, like really fast compared to a team of people doing it, it was also a very good schedule.
Yeah.
Like you look at it and be like, this is pretty good. Like this is way more than what we would normally submit as part of a bid.
Yeah. When I was a consultant and we were doing government bids, one of the things we would do is produce a bid which would have our consulting kind of schedule and budget, and then we quite often give it to a red team to tear apart and find the problems, and then but having that first draft that you can give to a red team of highly experienced people to look for the problems in a matter of minutes. I mean, that's nothing. And that cuts so much time out. That's a fantastic thing. So all the work you've done at nPlan is in the construction industry. But as I said at the beginning, you take a far wider interest in AI and its capabilities. You did a report, 7 years ago already, I guess, for the government. So things have moved on. So I think the last question I really want to focus on for my audience is, what capabilities do you foresee that could change the wider project management profession, projects, programs, portfolios, and all of that, either in the way that we manage our projects or in the kinds of projects our organizations and our clients will need us to do? So crystal ball time. Suppose we could ask your AI what it predicts, but what do you predict?
I predict two things will happen. Mm-hmm. The first is administrative load, not just in reporting, but there's a lot of administrative load everywhere.
Yeah.
From payments to contract management to reporting will dramatically reduce. We're not talking 10% reductions. We're talking about 80+% reductions. So if you're if your function or your role is highly administrative currently today, you should not expect that to continue to be the case within 5 years.
Yeah.
In fact, I would be surprised if that was the case within 5 years. Wow. Those people will not sort of be fired. They will be asked to do more valuable work, which we feel will raise wages as well. The second part is in a category known as decision quality. Mm-hmm. So decision quality is how we decide what to do next at all points throughout the execution of the project.
Yes.
We have a very classically hierarchical system within most project teams, which is upward to the project manager, project director, project executive, right? Insert any of those titles. And these people usually have strong opinions of their own, are what I call pop-up leaders, meaning move from project to project to project, and each time they have to recreate project teams again and again and again. You know, I lead the team at nPlan, but I've been leading this one team for 7 years now with the same people working on different challenges. And I promise you, this is easier than if I had to do this,
of course,
times in 7 years.
Yeah,
right?
You know the people, you know how to deploy them.
You know your scope, you know where you're headed towards. So, because of this hierarchical, highly volatile organization, which we just have to be inside project delivery, decision quality is often poor. Right? I believe my team and I can make good decisions because we trust each other. We know what we've been working on. It's clear and we have experience over a long period of time now. However, in construction, generally, this is not the case. And you see poor decisions happening all the time. What I think will happen in decision quality is that the requirement or the expectation that decisions roll upwards to a single point of leadership will start to break down. And you will see more junior people that are empowered with data and these powerful AI tools being capable of making superior decisions. And as soon as that capability is created, what you will see is a triangle becoming a square or a rectangle, where decisions can happen on multiple lines, and they will all be perfectly coordinated because machines are helping us, A, with the decision and B, with the administration.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, because but there's a kind of, it seems to me there's stages, isn't there? First of all, the senior decision makers of today need to start to trust through their experience that the AI is actually making good, strong recommendations, to the point where they get to the stage where actually they are just simply day after day signing off those AI recommendations. That's got to be the point where they feel comfortable to say, you know what, I don't need to be signing off those decisions. You can. And that's how it, I guess, trickles down. But that's really interesting, because we met at the APM conference, and another speaker there, Stuart Easton, who I've interviewed, whose software is all about, or whose business is all about decision making. But when I spoke to him, we really put a focus on that portfolio selection decision, which is all important. But another talk I went to showed that actually through project assurance in the government sector in the UK, was finding a lot of projects were really struggling. And one of the conclusions is a big problem with that is the decision making. Partly it's the political decision making, because government projects are highly politicized, and I don't suppose that AI is the solution to that, or at least we need a social shift before AI can be a solution to that. But the more we can get better, more reliable decisions, that, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort for a human being to consider a decision and to get over their biases and all of that through pouring through data. And as you say, this is what AI is good at. So I think that's a really interesting insight. And it's one I recognize, but it's not one that I've actually heard articulated. So thank you very much for that. Before I ask you to tell me how people can get in touch with you, are there any other kind of points you want to come back to or bring up for the audience?
One last point, which is I'd love to just give people some food for thought about the intrinsic biases that most project professionals or project leaders or project managers hold inside them. I was one of the, I was a project manager, and I had these biases. And I'll tell you that they come in nice threes. The first is we all have availability bias. We only know what we know.
Yeah.
Availability bias sometimes gets overcome by bullshit.
Yeah.
We claim to know more than we know, but we don't, right? And so we bullshit. But you should be aware that you only know a limited amount of information. The second is optimism bias, which I believe is well spoken and well documented. 95% of people do not believe they are affected by optimism. The fact of the matter is that most times we look at projects and project outcomes and our ability to execute on those outcomes, we will take a positive look. We will create a positive outlook on that. You should be aware that this exists, because when you are trying to provide confidence to someone else, to a stakeholder, recognizing you have optimism bias is a critical step in creating that confidence.
Yeah, there's a stage of the project where the sponsor and the project team feel they need to sell the project to the stakeholders.
Yeah. But recognizing these biases is a really critical part. The third is my favorite one, which is salience bias.
Yeah.
Salience is when we cut out the noise from a project. So you take a project, there will be thousands of things that have to happen to make this project real.
Yeah.
However, we typically can hold no more than 10, 15, or 20 things in our head. We can't hold. Of course,
George Miller would say it's 7 + or -2.
I would agree with it. I was trying to be optimistic about having.
There you are. You did admit to bias, yeah.
So what we do is we tend to just ignore the rest.
Yeah.
And many people I know in this industry will tend to focus on the physicality of construction. They love thinking about steel structures and tunnel boring machines going through the earth.
Yeah.
and big vessels being mounted on their foundations. That is not where project failures occur from, because there's already enough effort focusing on these things. Project failures, and we see this from the data we process at nPlan, which is 750,000 projects now, is that project failures appear from what's known as the non-physical part of construction or administrative work, permits, certificates, licenses, consents. We just don't like thinking about these things because we think they're a bit boring, if I'm honest. So we ignore them, and then they come and bite us when we're delivering projects. So it's important. What I want the audience to leave with today is that there are three biases that we are all affected by. You are not exempt. That's optimism if you think you're exempt. The availability bias, optimism, and salience. It is so powerful just to know that these three things exist.
Well, I'd add in a fourth bias, which I think is very relevant to project management, but it's also, I think, probably one of the most dangerous biases in society, which is confirmation bias. You much more readily notice things that confirm what you think is already true. You already think is true, and you discount small amounts of evidence that are building up that actually conflict with your expectations and your beliefs. So we can wrap that one in as well. Any tool that helps us deal with these biases has got to be a good thing. So this is great. Thank you very much. And I think people, I heard you speak, and I thought immediately you'd be interesting to my audience and to me. And so if other people are interested in getting in touch, how can they find out about nPlan, and how can they best get in touch with you?
Find out more about nPlan at nplan.io, a website. Lots of information there. You can sign up for free trials. You can use the product for free if you'd like to play around with it from there. You can get in touch with me directly at dev, at nplan.io. And I'm happy to take questions, concerns, thoughts, whatever you'd like. Perfect.
Well, Dev, it's been a great delight. I think you've shown us a very optimistic future of AI. Let's hope that's not your optimism bias. Let's hope it's founded in the data. But it does look like there's going to be a lot for us. So thank you very much for speaking to me today.
Not at all.
Please do give us a thumbs up if you like this video. I'll be creating loads more great project management content. So please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of it. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.